Hello everyone, welcome to the Good Doctors channel where we discuss health, truth, and freedom as much as we can before things get taken down, at least. Tonight we're just doing a real, oh you don't know it's tonight, I don't know what time of day you're watching this. This video is just going to be a real quick snippet on something that is of critical importance but very few people, at least in our circles, have heard about. So the topic is vitamin D and then some. So a lot of people know about the benefits of vitamin D and thought that the controversy regarding vitamin D was just in how much we need to take. Most people don't take nearly enough or don't get enough natural exposure. But there's something even more important than getting enough vitamin D, and that's what we want to talk about tonight, because this is a game changer when you understand this relationship that Dr. Mark's going to discuss
Yeah,
tonight.
so we're going to talk about the relationship between insulin and vitamin D.
I did it again, by the way. I didn't introduce us. Dr. Mark Van Hoogstrand.
Dr. Colleen, we're easy. So vitamin D and insulin, probably two of the most important lab tests you can order as far as blood tests. Vitamin D is checked pretty frequently. Rarely is insulin ever looked at. I order it on my panels, I add it. It's rare to see insulin run, but those are two that can tell you a lot about your health. So we're going to talk about their relationship, and we're going to be doing a series of videos, a number of videos on blood sugar and insulin resistance and things like that, because that's critically important, and there's so many people walking around with serious insulin issues, and it's one of the main drivers for all chronic illness, not only diabetes and obesity, but heart disease and Alzheimer's and cancer and all kinds of things. So it does some important things, but we kind of refer to it as the bully on the playground. You don't want it around a lot or frequently or in high numbers. So we're going to do longer, more detailed videos on insulin. And probably vitamin D as well, and especially now we're moving into the summer months. People are going to be working outside more, boating, biking, whatever. This is when most people can kind of step back a little bit on supplementing vitamin D. Hopefully, get outside, get your body exposed to the sun. We make it on our skin.
Unfiltered sunlight.
Yeah, unfiltered. Don't be lathering on a bunch of toxic sunscreen. But also don't, if you've been out working, or if your intention is to go out and produce some vitamin D naturally, don't go inside and shower right away, because we make it on our skin and we want the body to fully absorb that. You literally can just reduce your production by showering right away. So a good part of the year, a lot of people will be taking vitamin D, and especially over this last year, vitamin D was highly recommended as far as just preventing colds and flus and things like that, along with some other things like zinc, and it's very important. Vitamin D is a lot of great stuff. It's actually a hormone. I don't know why it's still referred to as vitamin D, but it's actually a hormone. And one of its original jobs is to keep your cells together tightly. So I'm going to come back to that in a second, because insulin has a very different relationship with the cells, and insulin and vitamin D have an inverse relationship. So this is where we'll see it a lot if we do order blood tests on people, or they've been getting blood work done and they're like, my vitamin D is always low, and I'm taking 10,000 IUs a day, or I'm doing 50,000 IU injections a week, or things like that, and they can't get their vitamin D up. Likely their insulin is elevated. So there's no way they can be taking all the best vitamin D in the world, but it's not going to, their levels are not going to raise, because they need to work on getting their insulin reduced. So insulin is primarily a storage hormone, so it plays a big role in storing fat and storing different nutrients. And again, we'll get into more of those details on an isolated video on insulin. But insulin is a growth hormone. So when we're young, children, you're likely, if you tested them, you're likely to see higher insulin levels and lower vitamin D levels, because they are growing, okay? And so vitamin D, one of the jobs is to keep your cells together tightly so there's no room for growth there. When vitamin D is low, there can be space now between the cells that allows room for growth. So when insulin's on the scene, now the cells can start to proliferate and grow. So it's a really interesting relationship there, but it also can explain a lot. If you're getting blood tests and you're wondering why I can't get my vitamin D levels up, demand to check your insulin levels. Your blood sugar might be borderline or slightly high, so they may not be talking about diabetes or pre-diabetes yet. But there's a lot of people walking around with healthy blood sugar levels, and their insulin is through the roof.
Or their blood sugar is being artificially altered so that it stays in a normal range. Meanwhile, insulin is.
I just checked a lady not too long ago, and her insulin was in the 30s. That's extremely high. So just wanted you to know the relationship between vitamin D and insulin. Two very important blood markers that you should be requesting if you get any blood work done. I think insulin is like $11.10. It's not an expensive thing to add to a blood test. But there's an inverse relationship there. So if you're concerned about your vitamin D levels or you're getting them measured, work on leading a more of an insulin-friendly lifestyle. Keep the sugar and refined carbohydrates down. Those two drive insulin more than anything else. More protein and good fats. Fat has zero impact on insulin, so that's why the ketogenic diet works for a lot of people. It's a very healthy way to go. You gotta watch the carb intake and the sugar intake, and there's other lifestyle things that can drive insulin as well. So again, we'll get into that, but just little news there for you on vitamin D and insulin. You got to work on both of them, and they directly impact the other. So,
and knowing that most people, like he said earlier, most people know that vitamin D is of immense importance as far as your immune function is concerned. Mm-hmm. So everyone wants great vitamin D levels, especially in the last year and a half, right? So taking care of the insulin takes care of the immune system as well. Because it affects vitamin D, but also watching those refined carbs and sugars is also going to allow your immune system to function at a greater level anyway. So it's a very positive, vicious cycle in this sense. We like both results.
Cool. So insulin-friendly lifestyle, and get outside, unfiltered sunlight.
For at least a portion of the day. I'm not saying go outside for 8 hours in unfiltered sunlight and burn yourself, but you need some unfiltered exposure to the sunshine on a daily basis if you can.
There we go.
You got the button.
Okay. See you next time.